J'adore les livres. To me, nothing beats reading. Well, almost nothing, because of late I've discovered an even truer pleasure. The pleasure of sitting down at a desk, sticking my feet on an ottoman poof, taking a big swig of soup, brackets cream of chicken, and writing. In the last month, I've written hundreds and hundreds of words, words pouring out of me like coins from a fruit machine when you win. Why? Well, if necessity is the mother of invention, then poverty is the father of hard work. And yeah, I've found myself confronted with both necessity and poverty recently. I admit I'm short of a few bob, which has forced me, like a struggling single mum, to think about alternative revenue streams. I'm not poor, perish the thought. If I were to let you into my house, perhaps in an emergency or if you'd won a competition, you'd find a home that was comfortable, welcoming and peaceful, but most of all, large. But I have been struggling with my liquid collateral, i.e. access to cash. There's the cost of living crisis, which has hit me just as much as the single mum in her high-rise. Like everyone, I've had to tighten my belt. God forbid anyone think I'm comparing myself to those less fortunate than me. But while they have to choose between eating and heating, I'll forego Dutchy pork sausages in favour of less expensive brands that mince up cheaper bits of the pig. More or less the same, it just means 1 bite in 5, you hit a bit of gristle. And my broadcasting income's taken a hit. A year and a half ago, I was a fixture on BBC One and remunerated accordingly. But that all stopped after I made some on-air comments about BBC management and the awful Julian Fellows that led to the termination of my contract. And the spin-off work went the same way. I thought I was set up on the after-dinner circuit for life, but the bookings start to thin out pretty quickly when you're off air. You end up about as welcome as a bumblebee in a toilet bowl. I have got to try stand-up. All indulgences had to go. You can't live a David Gandhi lifestyle on a Mahatma Gandhi budget. Not that I care about material possessions. I'm a guy who travels light. I could pack a bag tomorrow and take off on a motorcycle with a sidecar. No, I mean, no one's coming with me. It'd just be to carry a fat bag of towels. And then I'd hit the highway, just me on that steel horse next to a steel pig for the fat tag of bowels. But yes, I'm on my uppers financially, and I was bemoaning my bad fortune in the office of my friend and proctologist during a recent appointment. I've no shame in saying I get myself checked out every other month, and Dr. Gordon is happy to take a look. Not worryingly happy, there's nothing wrong with him, he's married, but he always provides quality care, and he even warms his hands on the radiator before he starts. And while they warm, we chat freely, and I got onto the subject of my financial affairs, and I was asking how come someone like Titchmarsh is spending money like a Russian in Harrods while I'm looking at holidays in Wales. And he said, well, Titchmarsh makes all the money from his novels. I said, no, Alan Titchmarsh. He said, yeah, he makes money from book sales. I said, no, I'm talking about Alan Titchmarsh, the TV gardener. He said, yeah, he writes novels. I said, Alan Partridge writes novels. He said, you're Alan Partridge. I said, Alan Titchmarsh writes novels. Alan Titchmarsh, off the telly. Hair like Scargill, always going on about Yorkshire even though he lives in Hampshire, looks like a Toby jug. That Alan Titchmarsh. He said, yeah, that guy. I said, wow. And I looked it up later, and bum me sideways, Titchmarsh has written novels that have sold by the wheelbarrow load. I just thought, I've got to have me a piece of that pie. And now, 2 months later, I'm close to completing my first novel. You'll have questions, I'm sure. Is it a good book? Yes. How good? Very good. How long is it? Exactly 300 pages. Does it have illustrations? Yes. 6 in the middle and a map on the opening page of the fictitious village of Liechtenstein. How did I get my ideas? Well, in this case, the book came to me in my sleep, and when I came to in the shower and rinsed myself off with a nozzle, they were just fully formed. These brilliant, wonderful characters in this brilliant, wonderful story. And that morning I was just walking on air. I got to my rackets club, and me and the guys there usually chat about normal guy things. That morning's traffic, our respective divorces. Back pain's a big one. We have a giggle at some of the new genders, discuss our fave James Corden carpool karaoke. And I mean, that will go on into the early hours. Or each name the best fictional TV cop or top female newsreader right now. But that morning in the clubhouse, I said, guys, one's a woman, Trish Beasley, but she doesn't mind. I said, guys, I want to tell you about a novel I have in my head. And they sat there rapt for 40 minutes listening to my story. Eventually I said, I don't know if I should stay here running ideas up the flagpole and spit roasting with you guys, or just go away and write the damn thing. And they said, Alan, you must go away and write it. And that vote of confidence really meant the world to me. I don't even have to type, not when modern Apple devices have a dictation function. It means I can stroll around the room, sometimes chucking a softball into a pitcher's mitt I'm wearing, and just talk. Because at the end of the day, I'm a broadcaster. I don't make magic with my hands like Paul Daniels or Martin Daniels. I make it with my mouth. Just as George Best did his talking with his feet, and blind people do their reading with their hands, I do my writing with my mouth. Alan Facts. Facts about Alan. You may be able to hear, due to a slight, almost imperceptible decline in the high frequencies, that I've grown a beard. I decided to grow the beard after watching an environmental documentary with Greta Thunberg, which troubled me. So after discussions with my team, I've decided to personally rewild my body. Alan Facts. Facts about Alan. As for the book, how to describe it? It's essentially a love triangle between four incredibly beautiful young people. Technically a love square, but that doesn't sound very sexy. Triangles are sexier than squares. My friend Mick, who has a salty sense of humour, says that's because an upside-down triangle is the shape of a woman's fanny hair. That's the thing with Mick. He goes there. I don't mean the clubhouse. They won't let him. Or women's fannies. Again, they won't let him. Let me tell you about the characters in this love square. The novel's called Autumn in Berlin, by the way. One is Rupert Summers, a fiercely intelligent British fighter pilot who could have been a codebreaker at Bletchley Park, but he hated sums, so he joined the RAF and has been named Spitfire Pilot of the Month 2 months in a row. He can make a Spitfire dance like a ballerina at the Bolshoi Ballet. He's not a pilot, one of his colleagues says. He's an aeronautical gymnast, and he removes his pipe from his mouth to laugh, as well he should laugh. So Rupert, the Brill pilot, he falls in love with Erin Heseltine, an incredibly beautiful young socialite who ran away to the south of France to have treatment for her eczema. Now healed, she's blossomed into one of the most desirable women in the world. She's really fit. When she walks by, she turns heads. I mean, literally turns them right round. Hence, she is known as the Owl Maker. Men would pull muscles in their neck just to get a glimpse of her lovely, chubby bum. The reader yearns for her and Rupert to marry, but her head is turned, though not right round, by another man, Rufus Winter, who's also a Spitfire pilot, but is also a psychopath who scares women by saying he wished he had big hands so he could strangle a whale. But Erin fancies him, so she laughs off the big hands thing as locker room talk, barracks banter, mess chat. However, there's another woman on the scene. Helga Damocles is the talk of Cannes. She is a lounge singer who smokes really long fags, actually an ivory cigarette holder with just a silk cut shoved in the end. And she has a steely Germanic beauty like an Audi. Vorsprung Dirk Technik, yeah, and the rest. She's a funny one, Helga. I found her to be a wonderful character to write because on the one hand she's transgender, so you're kind of rooting for her, but on the other hand she's a Nazi, so she's a woke Nazi. No one can figure her out. She's a riddle within an enigma, within a man, within a woman. Does she have a penis? Again, a mystery, but if you just stick to cuddles, it's fine. You know, what you don't know can't hurt you. Again, the love square plays out in the south of France with the looming spectre of another world war threatening to ruin everything. It might be easier, actually, if I just read some to you. I've had it bound, and it's not been published yet. Let's have a look. That's nice. Chapter 1. War Birth. Europe is pregnant with world war, heavily pregnant. Tired and breathless, with borders straining at the seams, she is prone to short temper and constant mood swings. Soon she will go into labour. The midwife? Adolf Hitler, a no-nonsense medic whose bedside manner leaves a lot to be desired. I say again, Europe is pregnant with war. It won't be her first. She had one in her teens, and while she enjoyed her 20s, here she is, approaching 40, ready to birth a second global conflict, which even now would be quite old to have a child, even in Poland, which is where it happened. But come a while, walk with me among the lemon groves along the La Croisette. The lemony fresh odour that is now the hallmark of washing up liquid and sherbet was then the perfume of a pure Mediterranean summer. The groves stretch as far as the eye can see, the fruit hanging in the air like a constellation of floating yellow eggs. On the breeze floats some music from an accordion, an air-powered musical instrument known to many as the bagpipe of the French, but unlike bagpipes, the sound is exquisite. Even Scottish people think bagpipes are shit. But the lemons, oh, the lemons. Erin picked one gaily as she strolled past and clutched it to her fantastic nose. The lemon, so firm, so yellow, its bumpy skin calling to mind the pockmarked face of an uncle who had touched her inappropriately. It was under mistletoe. He was allowed, he insisted, but she said yes, but I still have to agree to it. She was so modern. She stamped on the lemon, and juice flew out, and she imagined his brains squirting out, which might seem a bit violent, but don't forget he did try to kiss her, and she didn't want him to. But she was on her way to meet a man she did want to kiss, which was how, minutes later, she was spasming in a fug of tingling, shuddering glee. Just to say, it's a love-making scene, which I'm sure you don't want to hear. Actually, yeah, I am going to read it. I do think sexuality and sensuality are nothing to shy away from, and as a sexual and sensual person, I want my writing to celebrate sexuality and sensuality, and if it helps someone else discover their sexuality and sensuality, great. They kissed at first, deep, hungry kisses that compelled them to breathe exclusively through their nostrils. Their arms tangled as they sought to embrace one another, their glistening limbs interlaced like some sort of erotic waffle. Within moments, clothes had been scattered like big pieces of fabric confetti. They tumbled onto the bed, he on top, her underneath. She made a quiet oof as they landed, but she didn't mind, for her heart, mind, and genitals yearned for him. Rupert yearned too. The solid pipe of his manhood was positively hammering at the front door of her womanhood. "Let me in," it seemed to say. She swung open the door of her warm, wet home and welcomed him in, and as soon as he was, their bodies were like a stormy sea, rolling and swelling and grinding. The grinding continued apace. Rupert ground and ground and ground until he groaned. The intensity of his climax detonated something inside of her like a subaquatic depth charge. It erupted quietly, but its force made its way to the surface until she was giving full voice to the delight with which she was being furnished. For then the pleasure soared, the pent-up desire rocketed upwards like a murmuration of starlings or a colony of disturbed bats in the eaves of a rectory, barreling heavenward, amending up her. "Oh my God!" she said.
You okay, Mr. Partridge?
Yeah, yes.
You hurt?
No.
You're reading your book again?
Yep. Apologies, that was my housekeeper, Rosa. Sorry about that. She worries. Actually, I do need to get going. I have another check-up at Dr. Gordon's. And tomorrow I have a rather exciting evening ahead. As I say, I'm very keen to secure a publishing deal. And to that end, I've become involved in a Norfolk-based writers group called Write This Minute. We meet above a Café Rouge once a fortnight and talk about the creative process. I go along to help them, really, until one evening they did a full 180 and started trying to give me notes on what I'd written. It made me chuckle, but I quietly jotted them down so as not to hurt their feelings, got home and, gave them a cursory scan, and just because I couldn't be bothered to ignore them, incorporated the notes into the next draft. Did it improve the quality of my novel? Yes. And I suppose we'll find out tomorrow, because every so often they invite along an independent publisher to come and enjoy some of the writing, offer their thoughts, and who knows, might be a potential revenue stream, might be a waste of an evening. Lost and found. One woman's red handbag with a silver zip left on a park bench in Sheringham. It contains a tangerine, one medium-sized tampon still in its wrapper, a hairbrush strewn with long brown hair, and a packet of chewing gum, and a set of keys with a Harry Potter keyring, which suggests we're looking for a pre-menopausal brunette with fresh breath and thin hair, educated to some way short of degree level. If you know someone who fits that description and is missing a big red bag, ask her to get in touch. Lost and found. Well, it's the following day. It's just gone 11. The meeting is over. Just driving back. Didn't go brilliantly. I'm Made a couple of editorial decisions that misfired, or backfired, or failed to fire. It's a shame, I suppose. I just lost a bit of confidence in what I'd written. As I say, I had an appointment with Dr. Gordon yesterday and was giving him a flavour of the book as he went about his work. Not the love scene, that wouldn't have felt right. Yeah, he placed his hands on the radiator to warm them as normal as he listened, and was so captivated by my work, he forgot they were there. So when he finally did the examination, my goodness, did he have a hot finger. But I sensed the rest of him was lukewarm about my work. He said he preferred spy novels. I don't know what it was, whether it was what he said or the examination itself, but suddenly thoughts were tumbling around my head like trainers in a washing machine. So when I got back last night, I wrote and wrote and wrote. By this afternoon, I'd written the beginnings of a spy novel that I believed would become the defining novel of my life, better even than Autumn in Berlin. The piece had clearly been gestating inside me for some time. It is a novel about a British spy called Axel Peacock, who is tasked with poisoning Vladimir Putin, but falls in love with a Russian medic. And, perhaps because I was thinking of Dr. Gordon, comes up with a novel way to administer the poison. You've probably figured out where this is going. And so earlier tonight, in a corner of the upstairs room of a Café Rouge, I began to read. Dr. Virginia Longfinger, said a woman's voice. Peacock looked up. Dr. Longfinger smiled and flicked her hair off her face with a sideways head jerk. She was incredibly beautiful. She had the regal nose of Fiona Bruce, the eyes of Lady Diana, and the pretty pink ears of Nicholas Witchell. They shook hands warmly. And what is it you do? Peacock asked. I'm a top international proctologist, she replied. I inspect a patient's colon for signs of disease. Interesting, mused Peacock, and without breaking eye contact, he withdrew his hand and squirted it with a blob of sanitizer. And how do you get into that? You just part the bum cheeks, she replied. No, I meant the profession, he said. Got it, she said. Well, after medical school, the Kremlin called and made me head proctologist. I've never heard of a head proctologist, he said. I thought you guys just did backsides. We do, she said. I meant the chief proctologist. Got it, he said, a plan forming in his mind. He'd always imagined poisoning the Russian premier orally, but if this woman really was at the heart of the Russian government, maybe, just maybe, it could be introduced through a different medium. So how does a woman like you gain access to Putin's inner circle? You just part the bum cheeks, she said. I meant the Russian government, he said. Got it, she replied. Well, it's not easy. Putin has a ring of steel. Can't you just push harder, he asked. I'm talking about his security setup, she replied. Got it, he said. I can't believe all this Putin bum confusion. And they laughed. They laughed and laughed, and as they laughed, their lips came closer until the laugh they were laughing turned into a long, sniggering kiss. And at this point, I just told the group I was going to skip forward in the novel to the Kremlin 2 weeks later. By now, Peacock and Longfinger have fallen in love, and Peacock has persuaded her to administer the poison next time she examines Putin's backside. He's come disguised as her assistant, and they snuck into Putin's residence. I've been expecting you, said a voice. Peacock wheeled round to see Putin sitting at the end of one of those long tables, stroking a cat and dabbing his mouth with a lacy napkin, his own mouth. The cat didn't require a napkin. Please sit and have some caviar, said Putin, sliding a plate along the table like an air hockey puck. No, after you, said Peacock, sliding it back. Yet, I've just eaten, said the piss-hole-eyed premier, sliding it back to him. You sneaky bastard, thought Peacock. I wouldn't trust you as far as I could throw you. That's about a quarter of the length of this table, which is ridiculously long, by the way. Yet hungry, doctor, or should I say Mr. Peacock? Smirked Putin. Peacock froze. Poor Mr. Peacock. You are but a helpless pawn in this intricate game your Western puppet masters play. Peacock decided to play his ace. Oh, yeah? Well, people think you're a dick for sitting at the end of that long table, and your face has gone all chubby, he smiled. Anyway, how did you know my name? Did someone blow my cover? Putin's eyes narrowed, or should I say they became even more narrow than they already were. He looked at Dr. Longfinger. Peacock turned to the woman he loved. She had tears in her eyes and wiped them away with her long finger. "I love you, Axel," she said, "but I cannot betray my country, and this espionage you do, it's such a dirty business." "Dirty," he replies. "You're a fucking proctologist." So that was the excerpt I read. To cut a long story short, they didn't like my book. There was no subtext, blah, blah, blah. But that's fine because I didn't like their books either. My God, the dross. One woman had written God knows how many pages about 3 generations of mothers in Indochina. I mean, by the time she finished reading it, it felt like I've been sitting there for 3 generations. 0:05 a.m. White male, 5'10", 180 pounds, Caucasian, light on his feet, polo neck, cords, appearance pleasing, appears to be prowling, no, lurking. Is he prowling or lurking? Loitering, outside number 4. Oh, hang on, that's Ollie from number 4, yeah. He's going in. False alarm. Scribble that out. You're listening to Alan Partridge. It's just gone midnight, and you will, unless quite thick, have noted I am speaking in a soft, low whisper, kind of hushed tone, usually reserved for snooker commentary, spring watch, or trying to cow a fox that's wandered into your kitchen. From my experience, it's harder to cow a fox than it is to fox a cow. It's easy to fox a cow. You just cover your mouth and moo. In a similar way, I suppose you can badger a ram just by poking it with a stick. But if you want to ram a badger, you really need to be in your car. Likewise, you can ape a dog, just get on all fours and bark. But if you attempt to dog an ape, well, that's an ethical minefield. And I'm not comfortable talking about that. For my money, there'd just be too many welfare concerns for me and the selected ape. But as I've said, I'm really not comfortable talking about that. As you can tell, I've been going through the permutations of animal verbs, and it would have been a great game to play in the car with your kids, as long as you avoid the ape dog one. But these days you don't need games. Now they have tablets to keep them quiet. I mean the devices, rather than medication. No, the reason I'm talking in a hushed tone is that I am in the back seat of my car, parked up at the end of my cul-de-sac on a stakeout. You see, I am a one-man covert ops team employing surveillance techniques to catch the man, or woman, let's be fair, who in the last month has been fly-tipping building materials on a patch of grass just behind our cul-de-sac. You need to be invisible, blend in, don't draw attention to yourself, be as unremarkable as possible, like a chameleon, or the male presenters of The One Show, or a moth in a wardrobe. If they stood out, you'd say, "Get off, that's cashmere, I just bought that, you little bastard. Where's that electric tennis racket that makes killing insects so enjoyable?" So keep the voice down. So to paint the picture of, the ones that make them fizz and burn. To paint the picture, I am lying across the back seat of a borrowed Range Rover shrouded in a dog blanket, specifically chosen so it blends in with the upholstery. In an ideal world, I'd disguise myself as an actual seat, which they did to smuggle people across the Berlin Wall during the Cold War. I've often fantasized about catching car thieves by dressing as the seat, waiting for the thief to get in, sit on me, and then wrapping my arms and legs around him and hugging him, squeezing him hard until the police arrive, and hopefully, if the cop has his head screwed on, he should arrest the right man. They'd have to decide which is the more serious crime, and I would argue that Grand Theft Auto is a more serious offence than sexually hugging a man from behind. One man sexually assaulting another. You might disagree. We could talk for hours about that one for another time. But as I say, I've managed to blend in. It's a Range Rover with an espresso leather interior, and I've managed to cover myself with what I'd describe as a brown blanket, which looks about the same. Small gap for my face, and the blanket is bound around my head with a woolly tie. So close up, I probably do look like a shepherd in a school play. I was going to make my face match by using some shoe polish, but I thought better of it. Roger Finch's wife caused a bit of a stink locally when she did that to dress up as Diane Abbott for a Conservative Party fundraiser, and a few people objected. I mean, there weren't even party members. It was just a few of the waiting staff. But these days you can't even offend them. Yeah. I rang Grant Shapps because I was concerned, and he said, be careful, a white woman making herself up as a black woman to make people laugh could be taken out of context. Yeah, he's a wise owl, is old Schnapsy. In fact, one sec, someone else is coming. Oh, it's Roger Finch. Dressing gown and slippered coming out of his house to... Yep. Yeah, he's putting up his retractable driveway bollard. No one's going to steal your car, Roger. It's a 2019 Volvo Estate, for crying out loud. Anyway, people who do like Volvos don't steal things. It's perfect catch-22. I mean, if you want to ride with a 5-star NCAP rating for its safety restraint system, airbags to you and me, you're by definition not a gangster. And he's just peering over his car at my car, so I'm going to stay perfectly still. I'm talking to you right now without any perceptible movement of my lips. I sound a bit like Tall Daniels, who, by all accounts, is a very unpleasant man. Or is he dead? I think he's dead. He's turned away. This is a standard Special Forces technique for any covert operation, whether you're trying to wreck a munitions store in Iraq or jump out on a shepherd and garrote him in Iraq. A bad shepherd, I mean a bad shepherd. I don't mean his sheep are getting away, I mean a shepherd who also, in his spare time, makes IEDs. Improvised explosive devices. A good soldier will be able to maintain undetected like this for several days. In fact, once holed up, a sniper can actually slow down his heart rate and achieve a kind of zen-like calm, enabling him to get the perfect shot. In the Second World War, the Russians used women as snipers because their hands were steadier. And I'm sure the fact that they could kill a man in cold blood and sleep like a baby the same night won't have done them any harm either. That's it, Roger. Nice and still. If I had a custom-made rifle, I could pop that head of yours open like a beef tomato. 3, 2, 1. Boom. R.I.P. Roger Finch. Nah, he's all right. Does my lawn sometimes, using my lawnmower that I lend him to do his, so it's quid pro quo. I mean, that's how communities originally formed, through people being neighbourly. I will get you some cheap chicken if you get me some cigarettes. Neighbourliness. And be sure to sustain yourself with quiet, non-crunchy food. Muffins, raspberries, ice cream, yoghurt, cream cheese, hummus, peanut butter, raspberries, porridge, pulled pork are all fine. You can mix them up if you want. I bung it all in a blender and then suck it through a fat straw. And I do mean a fat straw. And people say, ugh, that sounds disgusting, but I've got to say it doesn't taste horrible, and it's packed with nutrients, but fibre, alas, will have to wait for another day. Alan's Swap Shop. Does anyone want a lunch with Surrey in Botham? Bought by me at a charity auction before someone told me he's not very nice. We'll swap for any Red Letter Day voucher or £500 in cash. Also seeking £100 for Sandy Toksvig bake-off experience. So yes, all this is a sacrifice, but the situation has become pretty serious. They're dumping this stuff up to 3 times a week. You wake up and one of the neighbours is screaming blue murder because the fly tippers have been at it again and left, well, you name it. Sacks of building site rubble, a snapped-off headboard, big tracts of unwanted roof insulation. I hope it's not asbestos. I should find out. I suppose I will find out in about 20 years. Old radiators, some carpet, rolled up lino, long sheets of that bumpy wallpaper you used to get. Why did that ever catch on? When I was a kid, a man told me the bumps were braille and spelt out, "This is a wall," so blind people would know which way up they were. I actually believed him. He lives in Spain now because he can't come back to Britain. But it's unpleasant, these unsightly piles of useless junk. I mean, you do find the odd thing that's useful. I've been making a model solar system in the garage in case the grandkids come over again, and trying to find things that represent all the planets has been a nightmare. But when the fly tippers dumped a toilet cistern, I thought, I'm having that ball cock. That can be Mars. I've already reinflated a discarded Casey football as the Earth, painted a yoga ball to make Jupiter. Someone said if that was to scale, that ball should be in Birmingham. I said it's for the grandkids. Get out. Still yet to find something to represent Venus, but there's no rush. I'm not sure exactly when they're next coming round. I used a P for the moon. I'm going to leave a message saying if you're ever in my orbit, I'd love to show you the solar system. Just a little joke, but I bought loads of Milky bars, Mars bars, Galaxy chocolate, picked up a Star bar, put that back. But yeah, anything space related. I was in the garage with my friend Gregor showing him my handiwork, and he said, "Can I see Uranus?" I said, "Mate, I thought you were back with your wife." He said, "No, I was making a planetary joke." He said, but I don't think he was. But aside from that, the neighbours and I are unanimous that something has to be done. Operation Excalibur, as it's known, was launched 4 days ago after an emergency session of the Glyndebourne Close Steering Group, we don't use the name Neighbourhood Watch, was convened by Chairman Paul Beesby. Beesby will be in post for 3 more months with Ken Tatchell as his deputy, at which point the chairmanship rotates on to Ken, with Roger Finch stepping up to number 2. People laugh, actually, at the formalised structure of it, but Paul always says that the rules are what makes me a Beesby and not just an anarchic bee. He's not a funny man. The meeting itself was at Beesby's. Normally we go up to Roger Finch's house because he has a shed come man cave in the garden that he lets us use. There's a sign above the door that says dog house. So whenever his wife answers the front door and you ask if Roger's in, she'll say, "He's in the dog house." You sort of have to be there, but it's always really funny. But Paul said Debbie had made sausage rolls, so we went round there instead. And yeah, as teenagers and muscle men in action movies say, shit got real. The guys were insisting we call the police. I said, "Guys, grow a pair." They just looked at each other. I said, "No, grow a pair each." You think the Norfolk Constabulary are going to drop everything to catch a few illegal fly tippers? These guys will scramble all units if there's a missing kid or some students are sitting in the road insisting Black Lives Matter. So do I, but I want to get to work. But illegal fly tipping is at the bottom of a very long list. We need to do this ourselves. We need to run nightly stakeouts to catch the fly tipper in the act, but none of the others want us to keep watch. Which is a shame, because they're normally pretty proactive when it comes to stamping out criminality. Not long ago, we learned that doggers were meeting to dog behind the big hedge over there, but I'm pointing now to do dog. We drove them away, eventually, using floodlights and a sound system playing deliberately unsexy music. We couldn't decide between Antiques Roadshow or the theme from Emmerdale. In the end, we just tossed for it. With a coin. And it worked. They relocated. Unfortunately, after they left, we realised they'd actually been doing us a favour. They're an unwitting anti-fly tipping task force, dogging do-gooders. It was later on that the fly tipping started. We said we should get them to come back, but apparently they meet by the golf course now and they're very happy. Anyway, I'm sure it's fine. We're a pretty vigilant bunch. I've always been switched on about home security. Ever since they built an affordable housing estate on the other side of the playing fields, we have no issues whatsoever with nurses owning homes near us. It's more that if one of them comes home late from a nightclub, who's she bringing with her? A nurse coming off a late shift isn't going to be mixing with people who play golf. She'll be cozying up to Johnny Goodtime, Liam Likely Lad, Nobby No Good. They finish their business together. She falls asleep, but he's full of testosterone and he thinks, "I want to go on the rob." Which might sound judgmental, but you have to identify risk in order to mitigate it. I was told that by a security consultant I engaged to help run the rule over my home security. Fascinating woman, actually, Tracy Maskell. A real economy of words when she spoke. She spent 15 years in the British Army. And not on the phones, as a soldier. Gets you thinking, though. If anyone did get into my home, what would I do? Kirsty also actually sent me a list of household items that can be quickly repurposed as a weapon. She said a curtain rod can be used as a jousting pole, and you can kill a man or woman with an ashtray. Very much a make do and mend, waste not, want not type when it comes to domestic weaponry. She's trying to electrify her cattle grid, but she was told if a trespasser died after walking on it, she'd be the one prosecuted. I've never seen her so angry, and that's saying something. I did suggest we erect high wire fencing and a retractable gate, turning the cul-de-sac into more of a gated mews. That way, if a chap does get in to pinch a telly, he's got to get out carrying a telly. The last place you want to be is pinned against a 10-foot gate holding a telly while angry residents walk towards you with golf clubs. I don't play golf, but I've got a 3-iron. which I think is definitely the best one. Shit, there's a vehicle. I'm just going to slide down in my seat again. No, false alarm. It looks like Carl from number 9. Just checking the bread sheet. Yep, he's just returning from seeing Jersey Boys at the Lyceum with his barbershop pals. He's fine, really. Yeah, Trevor Mendel from number 16 put this together. He just popped a form through our letterboxes and asked us to provide details of any planned comings or goings between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. each night for the next month. It just means we can rule people out of our investigation more easily, and I think I said breadsheet instead of spreadsheet. Why has he not gone into his drive? He's just pulled over outside. Ah, hang on, it'll be too tight a turn for him, yeah. He doesn't cross his hands when he's turning the steering wheel because several decades ago his driving instructor told him it was unsafe to do so. Hence, any manoeuvre harder than the most slow and rudimentary is beyond him. He'll be waiting there for Susan to come out and do it for him. I mean, I know that'll raise eyebrows, but plenty of women are better drivers than their husbands. You get bad male drivers and you get bad female drivers. I mean, we can argue about the percentages, but the fact remains. Carl never lets on that she does it for him, of course, but when he gets in and you can see him put the seat back and you think, hang on a minute. Some of the fellas rib him, but I say nothing, because I know if I had that problem and someone found out, I'd want to kill myself. What's the time? 20 past 12, almost halfway through the witching hour. I might have a sandwich. Less witching hour, more sandwiching hour. Gotta try stand up. Life hacks. Want to chill a glass of wine without ice cubes watering it down? Simply freeze some grapes and pop a couple in the glass when needed. Make sure you use white grapes, as the purple ones can look like testes. Life hacks with Alan Partridge. Oh, shit. Oh, sorry, I think I dropped off there. Probably not too long. Oh no, shit! Oh, fuck, shit! Oh, this is a problem. Stay calm. Breathe in, and out. Obviously! 8 bags of rubble have been dumped while I was asleep. There's an old wardrobe, there's a bathroom sink, and insult to injury, there's a fucking mattress too. Why didn't it wake me up when this is so bad? I can't believe I've done this. The others are going to have a field day. Beesby's going to be unbearable, even more than usual. I can't stand Beesby. He and Debbie and his kids are all going for bike rides together like a big fat duck with his ducklings in tow. I need to calm down. There's a van driving off. I didn't get the reg plate. Shit. I don't know what to do. I'm going to climb through to the front. I'm going to go after him. Right. Okay, here we go. I don't like driving after waking up. I tend to get quite groggy, especially if I sleep with my mouth open, which I increasingly do. Come on, Alan, wake up! Wake up! Ow! Now, the trick is to remain close enough to see where they're going, but not so close as to attract attention. Okay. Okay, they're heading into an industrial estate. No, they're turning off. Where does this go? It's a dead end. Shit! Okay, I'm just going to stop. He's getting out. Okay, I'm just going to pretend I'm checking the sat-nav.
Oi. I know you can hear me.
Oh, hello.
Wind the window down.
Do you mind if I only wind it down an inch?
What are you following me for?
Following you? I could just as easily say you were following me.
Yeah, except I was in front of you, Tim.
That's true.
Something you want to say to me?
I just wondering if you're the person who's been dumping rubbish in that area back there. I don't know if you know. I think it's not very clear, but I think it's prohibited.
And what are you going to do about it?
No, nothing. I'm just saying that I thought you might like to know. That's all. That it is prohibited.
Right.
But
right.
I'm not going to. I don't mind. It's just some of the other people that live near me might be a bit. Quite nosy people.
Shut up and go home, mate.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for letting me have the window down on the inch. Bye. Cheers, mate. Bye.
You're listening to Alan Partridge as I dust off my microphone in readiness to record another podcast. I mean, literally dusted off because I've just retrieved it from the very back of my loft or attic. What do you call yours, loft or attic? I could do a whole podcast on that. Different words for the same thing. I mean, that's a very rich theme. Cellar or basement, there's another. Forgive my voice. If I sound like a heavy smoker, it's because I'm having to lie on my chest, which slightly compresses the lungs, making breathing shallow, so I can squeeze through the narrow gap betwixt ceiling and a stack of old towels that, for some reason, stink. Perhaps the rotting carcasses of moths. Do they smell? I know they devour natural fibres with a gay abandonment. Many cashmere cardigan and Fair Isle sweaters been the victim of moth avarice. And why don't they eat fucking nylon? Okay. Several boxes of Christmas decorations. 2 Murphy Richards juicers. I don't know so why I own 2 juicers. I don't know why I own one. There we go, and I'm out! Sit down this cardboard box. Housing cassettes from days of yore. Funnily enough, on the way in, I knelt on a cassette and I found myself staring down at the broken perspex and the creased face of Belinda Carlisle staring back at me, illuminated by my phone torch. Wonder what she's doing now. Wonder if she's ever been to Carlisle. She wouldn't be saying heaven is a place on earth if she had. I bought that cassette from Woolworths. Had my whole life ahead of me. Thought I could do anything. But, as with all these things, you can mope, have a sit down, let the sadness wash over you, weep if needed, then dust yourself down, say, that's that, and on we go. And that's the thing with Loft, it's a very easy way to get drawn into a tunnel of memories, which neatly foreshadows what I'll be doing later, except that this will be a tunnel of rock, because I, Alan Partridge, get this thing open, I will be going potholing, and you're coming too. I have to say, as a man of advanced years, I'm deceptively nimble and really quite lithe. I'm a lot like Michael Gove in that respect. If you've ever seen him leaping around at a wedding disco, you'll know that he has the footwork and agility of someone like Rumpelstiltskin, the celebrated, what was he, leprechaun? I'm not sure what he was. I think he was just a small magic man. Yeah, I am agile. You know, if, for example, if I'm on a Tinder date country walk, I might vault the gate, even if there's an adjacent stile, particularly if it's a low gate and I have my stretchy chinos on. You know, it's a subtle way of saying, you know, I'm no slouch, you know, that I'm physically capable. I mean, she won't comment, the woman that I've selected, but it's seeded for later. I mean, 2 or 3 moments like that, perhaps retrieving a flower from a riverbank, or just simply reaching to a high shelf to retrieve some Nurofen or tweezers, you know, 2 or 3 moments like that, you know, laced with humour, and you're on a one-way road to a big kiss. Well, got my gear, waterproof oversuit wellies, wet socks. You know, there's a hyphen in there. I don't mean socks that are wet, I mean wet socks. Google it if you're not sure. Helmet, headlamp, head-mounted microphone, and I should have in the drawer over here. Yep, there we go. Swiss Army knife. Yeah, I had a great chat with Bear Grylls about knives. God, he's interesting. Absolutely fascinating man. Within a very narrow band of subjects. Just don't ask him about Jesus and you'll have a fantastic natter. You really will. You just keep it to outdoor survival if possible. Actually, even that isn't a guarantee because he will tend to circle back to Jesus. So, for example, talking about knives goes to gutting fish. Gutting fish goes to a fish that feeds 5,000. Hey presto, you're back to Christ. And he can do that with any subject. It's actually quite impressive. Before you know it, you're having to use the survival skills to get out of a conversation. Maybe he does it deliberately.
But no, he's all right. I'd love to go on an adventure weekend with him. I've seen him do all kinds of daring do, but funnily enough, I don't think I've ever seen him potholing or in any confined space. I wonder if he's secretly scared of caves. I might start telling people he's secretly scared of caves. Right, let's pothole. I know what you're thinking. Didn't know you liked potholing, Alan. Well, I didn't/don't. I've never tried it, but recently I've been trying to do a lot of new things because I've made what is known as a bucket list. It's a list of things you'd like to experience before you kick the bucket. And I did it in conjunction with my new best friend Ronald, after we both faced something of a health scare. We weren't even particularly close friends until recently. He was just a familiar face at the Boxley Wheat Chief. We truly bonded when we got a little spooked by a couple of health scares around the same time. We're both fine. Neither of them turned out to be anything to worry about. Ronald basically had a skin flare up around his backside and thought it might be colon cancer, but it turns out he wasn't drying himself properly after his bath. I said, for Christ's sakes, pepper yourself with talc. He said, it's microscopic balls of plastic. I said, well, that makes two of you with microscopic balls. And he laughed, which surprised me because one of his is smaller than the other, but I just came out with it and he took it on the chin. My health scare, I'm not going to talk about because it's private. But it's true that talcum powder is not good for you. I think everyone for the last 50 years has been hoodwinked by big talc. Anyway, in the days before we got our all clears, it was tough. Your mortality weighs heavy on you, like a wet donkey jacket. And we said, if we get through this, we're going to make every day count. So we each made a list of things we wanted to do. So he went for things like see the pyramids, hang glide, learn chess, kiss a guy, visit the Falklands. Mine would include skidding sideways to a halt in a car, operating a machine gun turret from the back of a pickup truck in Afghanistan or any sandy country, kissing a guy and conducting a gospel choir. But top of my list would be potholing. And that's where we're off to today. Our destination, once I've collected Ronald from his house, is Giant's Hole in the Peak District. Funnily enough, I was talking to a From the Oast House listener recently, and he or she said that the input I get from listeners and my Twitter followers is the best bit of the show. And whilst that's just not true, I still thought it would be worth asking my Twitter followers the one thing they would like to do before they die. Probably shouldn't be reading these out as I drive, so I'm just going to pull into a safe place. This lay-by here. Yes, this will do fine. Yeah, there we go. Let's pull in here. Okay. So Leonard in County Down says his only wish is to say goodbye to the people he loves and make his peace with God. Very nice, Leonard, but not really what I'm looking for. That's sort of ruining the game. I'm after things you've always wanted to do, not deathbed things like telling family you miss them or confessing to an unsolved crime. Actually, that's a very good one. Simeon from the Inner Hebrides, you don't often hear about them, says he'd like to swim with dolphins, ideally 2 of them. This is much more like it. He says he'd lash 1 foot to the back of each dolphin and attempt to stand up as they course through the waves, wearing them as floating grey shoes. I suspect there may be animal rights concerns. Best to run that past PETA first, and if they give you the thumbs up, I say go for it. Edward in Bedford said he'd like to be able to turn invisible for the day and visit a women's sauna. That's superpowers. A slightly different discussion, but for what it's worth, I know a lot of people might say that is a suspect in today's gender climate, but I think if the women can't see him and he doesn't touch them, I don't see any harm. That's not to say I in any way support or indeed sanction the use of peepholes. Pamela from Gateshead says she would like to track down the blimmin' traffic warden who gave her a ticket when she was dropping her friend off at a dental appointment. Hear, Pam. She says she'd teach him a lesson and no mistake before turning the gun on herself. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have read that one out. One here from Flora, who's 10 years old, and she says she'd like to go to Amsterdam, where she'd visit the Anne Frank Museum before kicking back in a cafe and rolling a fat one. I'm not sure what that means, but sounds fun.
Alan Partridge from the Oast House, with Alan Partridge.
Okay, well, here I am in the Peak District. And once again, you'll be able to hear that I am on the move. In the last series, you joined me on a country stroll. This time, the pace is very different. My strides are longer, my torso is angled forward at the hip as I walk into a stiff breeze, and I am shifting You'll hear just from the tempo of my footsteps that my pace is more sultans of swing than brothers in arms, which makes it sound like I'm in dire straits. I'm not in dire straits, although I'm sure being in dire straits would be on many people's bucket list. No, I'm in a wonderful place. Literally, I'm in the Peak District, just outside the village of Castleton. There's no Ronald, it's just me. Ronald decided to sit this one out after we had a disagreement on the drive just now, or a contretemps, as he would call it, because he likes to use French and Latin words, as many dicks do. It wasn't even that big an argument. His wife had made sandwiches, and I said she uses far too much butter. He said I was being ungrateful. I said I'm not being ungrateful. I'm thankful she made the sandwiches, but that doesn't disqualify me from lodging constructive criticism. The fact is, when you look at a cross-section, it's like an easy butter mountain. He said, you can't have too much butter. I said, yes, you can, and this is it. This is too much butter. I mean, what I have here is basically a butter sandwich with the thinnest slither of bacon. It's like a pig has leant forward and shaved his face onto the bread. So we have a butter sandwich and a penguin, basically. I mean, what's going on? It should be a double-decker at the very least. Then he snatched the sandwich back and pretended to laugh. He said, right, we're not going potholing. I said, fine, I'll go on my own. He said, you're not supposed to. I said, watch me. He said, you've broken the first rule of potholing. I said, well, until I receive a fixed penalty notice from the Society of Potholing Pedants, I'll be on my way. And I tried to get out of the car, but he had child locks on. I forgot to say I was in the back, because if I sit in the front of a car when a man of similar age is driving, I feel like a wife. So I had to wade through into the front passenger seat and stomp off that way. I'm sure he'll follow me. I'll just walk to the brow of this hill and then look back, and no, he's still in the car pretending to text, trying to look nonchalant, as he would say, but it's not working. He looks nonchalant. If anything, he looks chalant. Ronald! Ronald, what are you doing? Are you just going to sit there? Are you just going to sit there pretending you can't hear me? Fine, you stay there then. I'll do it on my own. Oh, so you can hear me. Anyway, I'm very happy to do my potholing alone. Ronald's forgotten I have a detailed guide to the cave written by Ronald himself, in what I don't mind saying is annoyingly florid prose. It's all sweeping vistas and veritable smorgasbords. He thinks he's Bill Bryson. Here we are at the entrance to the cave. It's an impressive aperture, all right. Ronald's notes say it's a 17-metre opening. I'd say it looks like a good-sized carport, able to take 3 cars for the wealthier man. Although why anyone has a carport is beyond me. I think they're ugly. They offer nothing in the way of security. They're basically an umbrella for your car. That's the rain's coming directly down. How often does it do that? Silly, really. I mean, once cars are painted and sealed with a PVC plastisol, it protects, you know, the metal against penetration by water. And of course, if it's zinc galvanized, then you've got another layer of protection, and wax oiled, etc., etc. I mean, the body work of a modern car does what a carport does. So you might as well make a carport for a carport. You know, it's like a half-hearted garage, really. Just stick some walls on, you know, see it through. Echo! Echo! Love saying echo and hearing an echo. The Liverpool Echo! And it's a few hundred feet down to the first sump, which is a passage that is only navigable underwater. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to get my hair wet because it's only just been lacquered and set. But according to this, over here is a route that bypasses the sump, which involves walking through a blasted tunnel. Now, to some of you, that will sound like I'm swearing. I'm not. It's one of those describing words that sounds like a profanity. Blasted tunnel, or bleeding radiator, or bastard cut file, or cockfight, all open to willful misinterpretation by the mischief makers. Right, there's a chain across an entrance here and a sign saying no entry,
But I'll just ignore that. I'm an adventurer. If Christopher Columbus had only gone where other people went, there'd be no America, would they? We'd still think it was just sea all the way to Fiji. I mean, America'd still be there, inhabited by natives. Big Chief Sitting Bull, dives like an eagle, walks like a chicken. But I'll tell you this, they wouldn't have the casinos. So I'm over the chain, and just on the right-hand side we have an oxbow, a little slit cum fissure that can be crawled through by the more slender caver. I have to say, Ronald wouldn't get into this. I mean, he's not what you'd call fat, but he has teddy bear dimensions. He's all big head, big bum, whereas I am, I'm just much slimmer. Put the head torch on. This is quite something. Just to describe it to you, I'm essentially crawling through a narrow chute made entirely from rock. I don't know if you've seen Bruce Willis crawling through an air conditioning duct in the popular action movie Die Hard, or Tom Cruise crawling through an air conditioning duct in the popular action movie Mission Impossible. But it's a bit like that. Not exactly the same. I don't have a firearm tucked in the back of my trousers. And those guys wore slightly tight-fitting T-shirts rather than waterproofs. Oh, I'm sliding forward quite easily. The algae is sort of soaping my progress. Oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, this is interesting. It's gone very narrow. I mean, it's impassable, really. Yeah, I mean, a small child, perhaps, but no, this is okay. I'm wedged in. I can't go backwards because I have nothing to push against because the aperture it's slithery. It's just slithery. I mean, oh Christ, there's like a stalagmite there, but if I push it out, I'll snap it off, and it must have taken a million years to grow. But anyway, not my problem. I'm literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's good that I can laugh in a situation that should ordinarily induce panic. Oh God. You fucking dick. You fucking dick! Help! Oh. Help! Help! Oh, don't panic. Oh. I'm wedged in by the hips. I can't believe this. Why did you do this? Oh, it really is quite a narrow passage. I feel like I'm being born, and the rock all around is the inner walls of my mother's cervix. I mean, it does look a bit like it, but it's hard and unforgiving. Apparently I got stuck then as well. My mum said they had to yank me out with forceps, and the midwife just pulled me out by my head. My mum's always said that's why I have a long head, but I don't think I have a long head. I like my head. I'm just going to have some water. I just reach. There we go. Good that I've got like a bicycle bottle, as it were. Oh, I tell you when you're thirsty, the water tastes as good as Ribena. Fuck. Excuse my French. Ronald, you silly bastard. Ronald! You silly bastard! Listen to me! Fuck. Oh, come on, he's not going to hear me from the car. He'll have the stereo on too loud. He was listening to the audiobook of Long Way Down, where Charlie Borman and Obi-Wan Kenobi ride motorbikes from John O'Groats to South Africa. Sounds amazing. Two men with shoulder-length hair riding motorcycles and just feeling free. Lucky them. I'm not free. Although I am a long way down. I just hope someone comes soon. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. If the cave fills up with rainwater, I'm a dead man. Oh God, why did I start thinking of that? Help! Help! I don't Damaged my voice. Should warm up if I'm going to shout. Oh. 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 Help! Help me! Help! Help! That's the way Brian Blessed would do it. Mind you, you'd never get in here. And the advantages of being big. You don't get in this shit in the first place. Well, it's an hour later. I'm still here. I'm sorry about before. I panicked briefly, but then I fell asleep. I wouldn't say I had a waking nightmare. That'd be too strong. But I dreamt I was stuck in between two slabs of rock. Then I woke up and thought, oh, for pity's sake, I am. I don't really know what to do. My phone has no signal. I don't know if that's because I'm encased in solid rock or because I'm with O2. I despise O2. I don't want access to the VIP area at Twickenham. I want my phone to fucking work. I've read Ronald's Guide to the Caves twice already. It's actually quite well written. Where is Ronald? He can be so stubborn. I just hope he realises that no argument is worth dying for. Help me, Ronald Carnforth, you're my only hope. Unfortunately, I can't send a hologram via a droid. I hate Star Wars. And people who like Star Wars, I hate them too. And people who learn that Star Trek language, they're dicks as well. And all the Doctor Who people. Get a life. What am I talking about? Look at me. I don't have a life right now. What I'd give to be sharing a Diet Coke with an asthmatic who lives with his mum. We don't last long on this earth. We should be nice to one another. Love conquers all. And you know what? If I ever see Ronald again, I'm gonna damn well tell him that I love him in a non-sexual way. Nothing wrong with loving another man. Nelson and Hardy, Laurel and Hardy, Morecambe and Wise, non-gay footballers hugging and kissing after a goal. Whew, God, I am in dire straits. Again, I don't mean the band. Another thing I'd love to be doing right now, even if they'd just let me play the bass. It only takes a couple of weeks to learn the bass. Especially in dire straits, because everyone's looking at Knopfler. Always look at Knopfler. Knopfler, 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 Knopfler. Sounds weird if you say it loads of times. Actually, it sounds weird when you just say it once. Knopfler. I think his bassist still left to learn about 3 notes. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, stars through the radio. Poor fella. He was in dire straits. The real ones. I think I'm going to have to eat my penguin. If I can squeeze it out over the top of my bicep pocket. Yep, it's a quandary. Because I need the food to keep my strength up, but I also don't want to gain weight and extra girth. It really is quite tactical. Apparently Shackleton and his men survived on penguins, but I think they'll have been real ones. Thank God I'm not claustrophobic. I can see how easily you might be. Agoraphobia, on the other hand, I mean, that to me is much more confusing. And fear of having what? Plenty of room. I mean, the idea that someone could, say, stand on the top of Kinder Scout in Derbyshire on a crisp March morning and shit themselves is impossible for me to understand. Unless you slip, I mean, then you'd be a goner. I've often thought if I ever wanted to kill someone, I'd just take them for a walk up a peak, Rush Up Edge in the Peak District, Indian's Head in Saddleworth, Cheddar Gorge. All you'd have to do is push them off. That way you get to do away with an enemy and enjoy a wonderful vista. It's the perfect murder. There'd be no evidence. You'd just say, I heard a scream and he must have lost his footing because I turned and he was gone. And they'd say, so why does he have your skin and fibres from your fleece under his fingernails? And you'd say, well, because I tried to grab him, but it was no use. Now, if there's nothing else, I really must get on. And they'd say, well, how could you have grabbed him? You just said you'd turned and he was gone, and you'd have to go on the offensive. You'd say, look, it's not altogether clear. I'm traumatised, for God's sake. How dare you? I'm grieving the death of my friend Grant Shapps. And you accuse me of being the one who killed him. Will you please have the decency to leave me alone? Yeah, I enjoyed that. I'd love to write a Midsummer Murders. You know, really get my teeth into it.
Alan?
Hello?
Alan?
Hello?
Alan?
Hello?
Alan?
Hi, Ronald.
Oh my God, how long have you been here?
Not long, just having a rest.
Well, you're in a right pickle.
I am, yeah, a hellish pickle.
Well, as long as it's not Hellman's pickle. I'm not sure I could handle another row about sandwich filling.
No, but some of the excess butter your wife puts in hers would be pretty useful right now as a lubricant to get me out of this jam. That's another sandwich filling. It's great to see you, Ronald. You're fucking great, mate. I know it's quite early, but that is because I'm on a little mission today. And a bit of milk. I'm fussy about my milk. Today I'm going to journey back in my car to a moment frozen in time, specifically a time when Britain was still great, a time by the name of 1943. Why do you want to go back in time, Alan? Well, it's because the present day has started to cheese me off a little. I was in a hospital pay and display car park trying to find a space, and a man returned to his car and said, have my space. I've got half an hour left on my ticket, have that as well. I took them with thanks and gratitude, my faith in humanity, somewhat restored, and went for my appointment in the hospital. But when I returned to my car, I was being given a fine. I said to the inspector, you can see my ticket doesn't expire for another 10 minutes. He said, yes, but this isn't your ticket. You bought it under a different reg number. I said, granted, but the man who bought it didn't need his full 3 hours, so he gave the remainder to me. He said, you can't do that, they're non-transferable. I said, well, why? He said, to stop you getting something for nothing, you'd be getting a parking space and not paying. I said, yes, but under this system, you're getting something for nothing. You're getting paid twice for the use of one parking space. Why can't you just pretend I'm the bloke that bought the ticket? No one would be any the wiser. You get the same net payment. The council department that oversees these things will have no view. As long as the same income occurs, why does it matter? And he just stared at me. He said, those are the rules. I said, yes, but within your job description, there is a provision that allows you a degree of autonomy to make a judgment of the circumstances in that moment. In other words, you, within your contract of employment, are permitted a degree of flexibility to allow you to make a pragmatic judgment, which I would suggest, under the current circumstances, is to let it go. And he just kept staring at me, either because he wanted to be defiant or because he didn't understand what pragmatic meant. And in the end, I had to pay. I mean, God knows what was going on in his life. Who knows? We can but speculate. Perhaps he was bullied at school. Perhaps his father ran off or clouted him now and again for his dunderheadedness. Perhaps his wife was sleeping with all his friends. Who knows? So I let him have his little victory. Not that I was going to let him see I'd won. I just wandered across the car park with a bit of a shoulder roll, gobbed on a wall, hopped in the car, buggered the seatbelt, dropped the window, put my shades on, except I couldn't find them. I could only find some big white women's ones, so I put those on, stuck my elbow out the window, hit the gas, wheels spun out of there, stereo on full blast, gave him an earful. Unfortunately, it was Radio 4, so I just blasted his eardrums with Melvin Bragg talking about the Enlightenment. Not ideal, but the irony, of course, made me quietly chuckle. But it was totally lost on that Jobsworth. Either way, he got an earful. Once I was clear of the hospital driving home, I dropped the window, and two thoughts occurred to me. One, the surface area and aperture of women's sunglasses is so comprehensive that there are zero blind spots. And two, what has happened to Britain? What's happened to that blitz spirit, that sense of community that used to pull us together in times of need? I mean, this was a car park outside a hospital, or certainly a private cosmetic clinic, all of which had me hankering for a time when sacrifice mattered. So, in this episode from the Oast House, we're heading to a place and time where it did matter. It's, just grab my coat. It's a day out for me, and hopefully food for thought for the self-centred people who man pay and display car parks. Although they're unlikely to listen to podcasts, certainly not ones behind a paywall. Oh, forgotten to finish my tea. Never mind, I've got a ginger kombucha in the car. Ginger kombucha.
Good name for a porn star. Sorry.
There is a woman at a gate, staring as I drive my car past. There is a fella on a bike, staring as I drive my car past. Well, it's 5 a.m. and I've been on the road for 2 hours. I must confess, I'm feeling a little giddy. Part of that is tiredness, of course. I've got that almost drunk feeling. But the kind of drunk where you're still all right to drive. So 2 pints if you live in a built-up area, 3 and a glass of wine if you're in the country. But I'm also giddy with excitement because we're going back to the past. If you're a member of the Conservative Party, you'll love the past. But if you're not, and you vote Labour because you're jealous of those who have a few bob to spare, well, you'll probably still agree that history is fascinating. Today we're on our way to a place where time has stood still. Please forget the Norwich jokes, heard them all before, and FYI, Norwich is not stuck in the past. It's actually a very progressive place to live, with everything from Wi-Fi to a gay bar. No, we're actually off to Dorset to visit the town of Tyneham, an abandoned village not occupied for some 80 years. That has become a byword for British sacrifice, which is why I was talking about going back in time earlier. Not in a TARDIS or a time machine or any of that gubbins. Actually, I must call Dan Gubbins. I recently bought a bell tent from him and half the pegs are missing, which I think he knew. Well, that's Gubbsy. Good company, but if you shake his hand, count your fingers afterwards. He'd laugh at that, to be fair. Well, here I am in the county of Dorset. Dorset, of course, being an anagram of Strode. And you join me as I stride along the coastal path back to Tyneham. Dorset, of course, often overlooked in the public consciousness in favour of its brasher brother Cornwall. But to me, and others like me, Dorset is very much the sophisticated choice. The Jonathan Dimbleby to Cornwall's David. Dorset, of course, the county of Thomas Hardy, whereas Cornwall is just, it's just pirates, really, isn't it? But back to Tyneham. What's its story? Well, picture the scene. It's Christmas 1943 and on the streets there is not a soul to be seen. Go into the village shop and it's the same story. And the church, and in the school and in the pretty row of terraced houses. No, Tyneham is deserted, you see, with secret Allied plans afoot to storm the Normandy beaches and take back France, who seemed incapable of doing it themselves, from the grip of the Jew-bashing Nazis. The War Office had given the villagers, 252 residents, 28 days to pack their belongings and clear off. Almost like in the old days, there would be the preferred method of removing gypsies from a patch of local wasteland, which is what the residents here kind of became, in the words of Cher's classic track, Gypsies, Tramps and Thieves. I might play that at the end of the episode, budget permitting. And sure enough, on the 17th of December, I'm just arriving now in the heart of the village. On the 17th of December 1943, the last residents left. Imagine leaving behind the town you've always called home. But what a wrench. The idea that the Ministry of Defence would evacuate, for example, Norwich and say that we could never go back, I mean, it just doesn't bear thinking about. But completely unrecognisable it would be. Like 28 days later, a weird sort of sci-fi wasteland, deserted bar, a few zombies walking down the street. I think you'd definitely notice a change. Yeah, the Norwich community would be scattered across East Anglia like dandelion spores. A proud people, but one that had faced unknown hardship. Eventually, we'd, I imagine, demand a settlement where we could once again live together. One side of Ipswich would simply have to vacate. And what's the alternative? You know, we're a people with no home. And if Ipswich doesn't like it, they can lump it. I think I may be talking about Israel. Damn it! Israel is the one topic thou hast been not to discuss.
Yeah, that and abortion and trans rights and Spotify.
Supper clubs. Supper clubs are getting more popular than ever, and here are two you can enjoy in Norfolk. Dining in the Dark with Daniel, an immersive dining experience conducted in complete darkness to ensure the food is the star. Although initially disconcerting, Daniel is a friendly and tactile host who's worked for short periods in several top London restaurants before being moved on. He has a full CRB police check and anyway is married, so there's absolutely nothing to worry about. But try not to come alone. Jasmine and Bryony's Squiffy Suppers, the emphasis is very much on fun. On arrival, guests receive the same welcome cocktails that Jasmine and Bryony have been tucking into since late afternoon, and a combination of party games and the host's infectious personality, their words, soon get the party in full swing. The courses are wine matched, and while the quality of cooking nosedives after the first couple of courses, the raucous giggling means that food will be the last thing on your mind, although Bryony can become maudlin by the time dessert is served. Overall, not for me, but other people seem to like it. It's about 10 minutes later from when I was just talking about that other stuff. And I'm here in the village, and it really is quite an eerie place. Everything's here, apart from people. I suppose it has a very haunting air. A haunting. I mean, I suppose the people who left this village were effectively refugees. I guess they would have been absorbed into, where's near here? Bournemouth, maybe? Or perhaps a holding facility in Poole. God help them. I'm sure they've been well treated, and that's the British way. Look how we welcomed hundreds, if not dozens, of Ukrainian refugees into our homes. Yes, we didn't welcome Syrians into our homes in quite the same way. I know they too were persecuted just as badly, but not welcomed. Not sure why, but can't be the way they look, can it? Yes, but Ukrainians were very much welcomed. I had a Ukrainian live with me for a while. She wasn't an asylum seeker. We were in a sexual relationship, and to be fair, that was 20 years ago. Yeah, that was a tough time. Tough time for her, tougher time for me. I suppose if you want to be pernickety, I did grant her asylum in my home while the relationship lasted, but the two things were totally unrelated. It wasn't as if I said, I make you welcome, now you pay. And equally, on her part, there was no, me love you long time kind of thing. No, I think what we had was based on mutual respect. And yes, spade a spade, no holds barred animal attraction. Yeah. Whew. Partridge from the Oast House, with Alan Partridge. Plane going into Bournemouth Airport, God knows why. Full of old people coming back from somewhere warm. Change of scenery. If the residents of the 1943 village of town had heard that, they would have said, what in God's green earth is that sound? And if there was a British civil engineer on the spot, he would have said, that, young lady, is the sound of a jet turbine. It's the travel of the future, believe me. The white heat of technology. They would have grabbed her around the waist and said, come on, let's get you a shandy. Different times, different times. Absolutely no one around. The remaining road signs as useless as a chocolate fire guard. I love that phrase. Or indeed any fire guard made of non-heat resistant material. I mean, the fact that butter, that would be another one. Egg, that's another. I suppose with an egg fire guard you'd initially get an omelette, but for how long? But I digress. I've just reached the phone box. Nothing inside. No. My face up to the glass. Yeah. Long since defunct Bakelite telephone with the dial. I miss dials. Yes, unusual design. Cream with red doors. Of course, people forget that Phone boxes used to come in numerous different designs. This one, of course, being the first, the K1. The classic red phone boxes Britain's famous for, the K6s, were introduced in 1935 for the Jubilee of King George V, but didn't become standard around the country until after the Second World War, by which time Tynan had long since been abandoned. Was that boring? I don't think it was. Do I? No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't. I often told my grandchildren that before phone boxes had defibrillators in them, you could barely see through the windows for the plethora of prostitute cards plastered on the glass with all sorts of suggestive little slogans. You know, Madam such and such will, you know, do whatever, Miss Thingy-majig, Lady whatchamacallit, piddle on my so-and-so, just passing the post office. Incredible to think that this street and all these buildings would once have been filled with people and chatter. Morning, Maureen.
Evening, Joe.
How's things?
Oh, you know, getting along. I hear rumour they're going to turn the village over to the MOD so they can practice shooting Germans or something.
Over my dead body.
It might come to that.
No, I shan't allow that. I've lived here before me. My father lived here. My father's father lived here. My father's father's father lived here. My father's 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 father lived here. My father's 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 father lived here. And on I could go, Maureen. Anyway, on we go. Okay, strolling up to the chapel here. There's a man over there, right off in the distance, walking this way. I'm going to walk the other way. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to be here. I mean, I know it's technically Ministry of Defence site, but it's not as if it's Chernobyl. Similar vibe, I guess. I've never been. I'd love to go one day. Actually, it's more like the village of Aham. I don't know if you know that. It's where in the 1600s the locals cut themselves off from everyone to avoid spreading the plague after an outbreak and sacrificed themselves to save the lives of others. Not dissimilar to COVID, I suppose. We all had to make sacrifices to stop the spread of disease, especially during lockdown. I barely went out. A friend of mine converted his basement into a speakeasy, and a few of us would gather down there, but we'd always wear masks. We'd lift them up if we were sipping the cocktails, but we'd put them straight down afterwards, and one of us would keep an ear out for footsteps above. Every now and then we'd be shushed as we heard someone approach. I've never felt more Anne Frank. One sound would reveal our location, because it could have been the cops. I mean, normally it was a Deliveroo driver, but still. And honestly, the whinging you heard about COVID and lockdown, what happened to the Blitz spirit? Stiff upper lip, rallying round to help your fellow man. Good cheer of the plucky British attitude. And yes, during the Blitz, looting was rife, the murder rate went up, and overall crime increased by half during the war. But I'll tell you something, they did it with a bloody smile. That man's getting closer. Very purposeful stride, dressed all in black. I don't know if you've ever seen Yul Brynner, how he walks in Westworld. Or Kirsty Allsop when she wants to speak to a worker on her estate whose tea break has gone on too long. But it has echoes of that. He's coming right towards me. It's quite unsettling. And I know it's 99.99999% not a training exercise where armed special forces are released and told to pick off intruders, but it is a military training facility, and why else is he walking like that? Actually, I might just pop in here. This is the village school, preserved as a kind of living museum. I mean, look at that, neat rows of desks and wooden chairs, school books laid out ready for the day ahead. Very like Pompeii, frozen in time, but without the petrified corpses. Of course, the children would be petrified. I can imagine a stern mistress ruling the classroom with a rod of iron, and of course in those days you could smack kids, particularly if they misbehaved. Okay, I can hear footsteps, someone's approaching the school. Oh God, they're freaking me out. I've hidden in a cupboard. Bit of a squeeze, but I'm in. Oh my God, it's getting closer. What the fuck do they want from me? shouldn't have come here, all because I had a row with the ticket inspector in a cosmetic clinic car park. And yes, fine, it was a cosmetic appointment, nothing wrong with that. And yes, some people overdo it on the corrective surgery. Some men's faces look like they've got their heads stuck out of a car window permanently while their dad's driving on the motorway. I'm not sure that's what most of them asked for. If they did, then fair play to the surgeon, they've nailed it. But, I mean, why would a man want an aerodynamic face? Unless he was a cyclist. Just a quick look. I don't know what to do. Is it worse to stay hiding or pop out? I'm panicking. Oh, I've got wind. I'm scared of letting off. Hold it, Alan, hold it. And one thing they teach in the SAS is trump containment, because in covert situations a fart can spell death. I don't mean because it smells, although that would also give away your position, eventually, depending on wind direction. But you have a decision to make. Do you chance getting it all out in one big trump and using the sound of a passing lorry as cover, or, eke it out in stages, in which case it can turn into a whistle, or half whistle, half squeak? Hello.
What are you doing here?
Nothing. I'm just a man in the cupboard. So go away, please. Why are you dressed like a boy from the war?
Because this is how we dressed in the 1940s.
What? Wait, are you a ghost?
No?
Well, why? Wait, what year is it?
You mean the actual year?
Yes.
2022.
Oh, thank God for that. I thought you were a ghost. Well, so why are you dressed like that?
Because we're on a school trip. We're learning about the war. Why do you have staples under your chin?
They're to seal a scar.
Did someone try and slit your throat?
No, I've had a chin tuck. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's surgery. Are you familiar with the role of collagen in maintaining the elasticity of the skin?
No.
Okay. Well, middle-aged and aging men have a thing best described as under-chin turkey wattle, and I wanted to eliminate that.
Why?
To boost my self-confidence.
Why are you in a cupboard?
Because I don't want people to know I've had cosmetic surgery to remove my under-chin turkey wattle.
It's all right. I won't tell anyone.
Okay, good. Cheers.
Can I have some money?
What for?
To keep it a secret.
How much?
20 quid?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. There you go.
Cheers. Can I have some more?
What for?
So that I don't tell anyone you gave me money.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of From the Oast House, or should that be from the Ooze House, because today I'm speaking to you from the banks of the River Ouse in Suffolk. Very soon you'll hear me in the shallows, a splishing and a sploshing. I love onomatopoeia. I've always adored words that sound like what they mean. Bang, crash, piss, wobble, cough, bark, cacophony, crescendo. Why splashing? Well, because today we're going wild swimming. I don't mean wild in the sense of Ainsley Harriott swimming, like an out-of-control propeller. No, wild swimming is the new term for a pastime that used to be called swimming outside, or swimming. I just happened across an article about it, and my interest was piqued. I was looking online for the man who normally repairs my freezer. It keeps developing a thick beard of frost, so it ends up resembling Captain Birdseye or Santa, or just a very icy Christ. Certainly the beard bit of them anyway. I needed to call in the experts, and I ended up Googling Iceman, which took me not to a local fridge repair specialist who trades under the same name, but to a website of a man called Wim Hof, or Wim Hof. I think it's Wim. A Dutch motivational speaker who's so tough he can swim in water miles colder than anyone else. And it's not so much these that he's so hard it doesn't bother him. It's more subtle than that, because Hoff actually believes it has benefits. Just cross through here, getting closer now. But like many, I've always felt unsure about immersing myself in water. Rivers hold negative connotations. Ophelia in Shakespeare's hit play Hamlet drowns herself in a river after getting herself in a tiz because her boyfriend killed her dad. I kid you not. Virginia Woolf took her own life in the same way, in the River Ouse, in a different River Ouse, and she lived in a huge house in Sussex, which just shows you that for some people, mental health is nothing to do with how good your house is. Poor Ginny. Less dramatically, Nicky Campbell got ticks in the folds of his groin and a giant leech on his back after being thrown in a river by his family. And a Baptist who works for me was baptised in a river and likes to go on about it. And for these reasons, river swimming is something I've gone out of my way to avoid. But I've decided to give it a go. Why? Because cards on the table, I've been in a bit of a funk recently. Yes. Whereas my senses normally fizz, tingle, ping and pop, I love onomatopoeia, lately they have been as lifeless and dead as a slept-on arm. I'm pretty attuned to any slumps in mood. Generally, the barometer is my morning routine. If I'm feeling good, I will jog down the stairs like a game show host, enter the kitchen, then do a quick scurry to the fridge, lock my feet and slide, almost surfing the polished granite tiles. On a good day, I can slide for up to 2 metres. I know I'm in a bad mood because if there are no clean mugs, I'll have no motivation to wash one. I'll drink my coffee from a gravy boat or 4 egg cups. Believe me, when you're drinking coffee from a tall vase, you know things in life ain't hunky-dory. Not sure what caused it. It's not like the good news has been in short supply. On Monday, a waiter forgot to charge me for an expensive pâté starter. On Tuesday, I reunited a pair of cool trainers that had been separated for a year. On Wednesday, a woman in a shop said I had a nice sweater, and I thanked her and said I'd squirrel her compliment away in a drawer marked unsolicited kindness. And she mock-shoved me and said, "Oh, shush, I'm sure you get it all the time." I love it when 2 cashmered 60-somethings engage in gentle joshing. And on Thursday, I found out a celebrity I disliked missed out on a work opportunity she'd already been gloating about. All good news. And yet, I don't know, they barely registered. So I thought best thing to do is get out and do something to reboot the emotional operating system. A real Control-Alt-Delete, shake the Etch-a-Sketch, hard reset. Alan facts. Facts about Alan. People ask, have you ever dated a dental hygienist? Yes, I have dated 2 dental hygienists, and I'd recommend it to others. Kissing any woman is enjoyable, but add to that a mouth crammed with bone-white molars and incisors with the freshest of fresh breath, and it's a match made in heaven. Throw in a no-nonsense manner and a freshly laundered uniform, and you've got yourself a best-in-class kiss. Alan facts. Facts about Alan. Okay, here I am. Some people lower themselves in. High jumping, it's ace! Oh, God. Oh, my God, that's cold. Oh, sweet Christ, that's cool. That's some cool water. Oh. My teeth are shattering like Wally Banton. My willy's got absolutely tiny. If I was a Tolkien character, I'd change my name from Cockshaw Baggins to Winkle Walnut. Well, it's 10 minutes, and I can safely say I'm now fully into the swing of things, breaststroking gently along the middle lane of the river. Oh, and yes, the sun is beating down, a duck over there. Beg your pardon, it's a swan. I'll just avoid eye contact until I've glided past. There we go. Never try to stare at a swan. Gavin Estler told me that. Some incident when he was younger. Got involved in a Mexican standoff with a big swan. Him and his dad ended up having to take the swan's life. And I know that weighed heavy upon his shoulders.
I mean, his conscience, I'm not suggesting he carried it back home for dinner. Can you eat swans?
But little did I know I was 10 minutes away from disaster. In 600 seconds, I, Alan Partridge, would be battling to save my very own life. An idyllic afternoon in a British river would end in terror. Imagine wind in the willows turning into Das Boot, and you're most of the way to imagining the plight I'd be facing in, as I say, 10 minutes, or 9.5 now.
But yes, wild swimming is having something of a moment of late. Very, very popular among Guardian readers who don't want to use the swimming baths because they think they'll get verrucas, but are happy to risk Wheals disease. Not my tribe, of course, but the watery veins of Lady Britannia are for all of us to enjoy, not just sanctimonious Guardian readers. Not that you'd be troubled by socialist wild swimmers in these waters. East Anglia is to the right of the country, and I don't just mean on a map. In all seriousness, if you said the phrase person of colour in Norfolk, they think you were talking about a smurf.
Morning. Just to say, a lot of people don't realise that this is actually private land.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
But it's private.
No, that people don't realise. I thought that was common knowledge.
So you knew it was private land?
You're very much so, and can I say, you keep it beautifully.
It's just that we normally expect people to ask permission before they use the land.
I didn't realise I was using the land.
The riverbanks constitute our land, as does the riverbed. It's a little thing known as...
Riparian rights, but sorry, go on.
Under riparian rights, they fall under our ownership.
Yeah, but not the water itself as defined by the Water Resources Act 1991.
What's that you've got?
Oh, this is it's a short summary of my outdoor swimming rights, which I've laminated and popped in a lanyard in case I was challenged. And I could read this out loud to you. The Act defines watercourses as all rivers, streams, ditches, drains.
Well...
Yeah, not quite finished. Drains, cuts, culverts, dikes, sluices, sewers, and passages through which water flows. Yeah, now I've finished.
Well, if you've entered the water on our property, you must have used the riverbank.
You're absolutely right, but I didn't, nor have I used the riverbed. I'm just using the water, which you don't own. It's a little thing known as swimming.
We own the fishing rights to the water.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure I'm not fishing either, but if I accidentally pick up a tench, I'll send it your way. So I'm afraid you're wrong with a capital R. The fact that wrong is not spelt with an R serves merely to underline just how wrong you are, and also to add a bit of levity, because I can see that you're a little bit annoyed to have made a mistake.
Well, I'm not annoyed, so...
It's fine not to know. All I'd say is if you're going to challenge someone, maybe dig a little deeper. I'm sure there's things you know that I don't, although if I wanted to challenge you, I imagine I'd do my homework first.
Right, well, just be as quick as you can.
Yeah, or as slow as I want. Enjoy your day, don't feel bad about the wrongness. Ooh, that was good.
But it wasn't good, for I was drifting further and further into some of the most lethal waterways in the country. Tangled river weeds, flies, twigs, thick mud and water boatmen, beetles that can swim, and miscellaneous detritus made safe passage all but impossible. Also fish.
Gone quite a long way now. I think I've, anyway. Hard to tell when you're in a river. Just trying to think if I know where the car is. Strangest thing is not being cold. Why? Because I am wearing a triathlon grade swimming hat made from 4mm thick Yamamoto smooth skin neoprene with a low drag hypothermic design and adjustable Velcro chin strap. I must say, it makes me laugh when people think neoprene is the same as rubber, completely overlooking neoprene's interlaced molecular structure. But I usually just let it go. Other outdoor swimmers like to use goose fat to keep warm, but I recently owned a dog that would, no exaggeration, have eaten me had I smothered myself in that. And although my new dog takes no interest in me, I just wouldn't feel comfortable in poultry fat. Of course, the Romantic poets were big into wild swimming, not that they would have used that term because it was invented by the Guardian. No, in their day it was known as hydromania, and they were, I suppose, hydromaniacs. They were certainly maniacs in many ways. Coleridge was a skaghead, wasn't he? Might try something different. Flop onto my back, maybe. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. This is the stuffed wild floating. once again, just letting the current be my driver, my skipper. For I am man become boat. Right, this is weird. The foot's just got snagged on something. I'm sorry about this. There's nothing to be alarmed about. My left ankle has somehow got itself caught up in a reed or something. Or some such. Just I'm having to scull with one leg to keep myself afloat. For crying out loud! For Christ's sake. The weird thing is, the more I struggle, the more I seem to get tangled. This is actually quite scary. I'm saying it with a laugh because it helps to ward off panic. Although I am panicking a bit.
Survivalists agree that far from being the act of a coward, panicking is an effective and rapid way to assess danger and consider options, but only if done correctly. There are two ways of panicking. One where you panic yourself to death, the other where you panic yourself escape. I prayed I was doing the latter. Alas, I began to succumb to the waters, and then I was pulled under by the weeds. When I was underwater, I was strangely at peace with myself. Time seemed to slow down. I saw my first steps as a toddler, my baptism, my first day at school, my confirmation where I took the saint's name, Fabian. I saw the face of my Geordie friend Michael, who also drowned in water. I saw myself on a red letter day in 2004, racing a JCB digger, the best day of my life. I saw many other images, gliding from left to right, like the in memoriam bit at the BAFTAs. The first girl I kissed, the last girl I kissed, shaking hands with Nigel Mansell, shaking hands with Nigel Havers, paddleboarding with Lorraine, something I'd never done but at one time had wanted to do. Passing my 11+, eating deviled eggs with Claire Rayner. There seemed to be no rhyme nor reason to the images that were coming thick and fast. Was it limbo or purgatory? Limbo has always bothered me. It never ever ends, whereas purgatory seems much more bearable, more of an uncomfortable waiting room, like an EasyJet departure lounge. You know you're getting out, but while you're there, it's bloody awful. You'd be thinking, if I'd done a few more good deeds, it would have left me with the spiritual equivalent of speedy boarding. I became aware of moving towards a very bright light, as if travelling along some sort of tunnel, but then realised I wasn't being taken to heaven. I was being shown the new Crossrail project because I'd won some sort of competition. I felt strangely at peace as a man who worked for TfL gave me a high-vis jacket and a hard hat, put a hand on my shoulder and calmly said, "Come with me." As I followed, he explained how the Crossrail network, now renamed the Elizabeth Line, used 8 tunnel boring machines to carve out the 42 kilometres of new tunnels under the capital, the heaviest of these weighing 1,000 tonnes each, while a massive 932 miles of cabling has been laid to connect the railway's signalling communication systems with 250,000 holes drilled to house it all. I felt serene. By the end of the tour, I felt a lightness as one woman, presumably also from TfL, her face soft and angelic, glided towards me, held my face in her hands and said, "Alan, everything is okay. You can now get from Shenfield to Liverpool Street in 23 minutes. And we both just cried. I felt myself floating above myself and looking down, and it was then I realised I'd shaken myself free from the reeds and was bobbing about on the surface. Well, it's an hour or so later, and after hauling myself free from the river, I lay on the riverbank and fell asleep, and now dry as a bone and fully refreshed, I'm trudging back to the car. Not swimming, but walking, mankind's preferred means of travel since we dragged ourselves free of the primordial swamp all those years ago. Oh, God.
Hello. I thought you'd use the riverbank.
Yeah, I nearly drowned. I got caught up in the weeds.
You should really ask permission in advance.
Yeah, I thought I was going to die, but I managed to pull free.
It's just a bit of common courtesy, that's all.
I think it was the thought of my kids that gave me the will to survive.
All right, well, enjoy your day.
Yeah, I will, because I've got a new perspective on what's important. Bye! Before my near-death experience, a day was just a day. Now my attitude is totally different. Now I treasure every second. Every morning when I get out of bed, I feel like I want to be in front of a camera, shaking hands with a man in a suit holding a giant cheque. Why do I feel like that? Because every day I feel like I've won the jackpot. My opening words were accompanied today by an oboe. For my money, the saddest of the woodwind instruments. Even the word oboe sounds like someone with a cold or big adenoids trying to say, oh no. It's funny, the rest of the woodwind family don't sound sad at all. If anything, they produce gently comical noises, be it the duck quack of the clarinet, the flatulent honk of the bassoon, the, just traversing a style here, the breathless titter of the flute. And the saxophone just sounds sexy. It looks sexy too, with its curves and its knobs, I mean, nipple buttons. I always think if I was directing a movie and there was a love scene, I'd accompany it with saxophone music. I have a CD called Sensual Saxophone Volume 3. That's not a sound level suggestion, it's just the issue number. I always think it's the perfect accompaniment to gentle lovemaking. You just need a gentle sax, low lighting, or open fire, or a bar fire with just one bar on. A fat candle, again for lighting reasons, and then a few more practical items by the bed: jug of orange squash, flat pack of wet wipes, and you don't have to do this, but I like to be belt and braces. Your next of kin's name and number on a post-it note. Oh, and comfortable clothing for the post-coital chill-out. She might like to don a gown. I like a baggy vest and trunks. And it's not just the background music that's doleful. Those of you with keen hearing, the more, I nearly said eagle-eyed then, but what would the phrase be? Eagle-eyed but for ears. Dog-eared? Actually, dog-eared means something else, like you've seen better days. I know some of you say that that's true of my listeners, that they're overwhelmingly middle to late age, but might surprise you to know that one of my listeners I met the other week was a 34-year-old woman with blonde, short hair who works at the swimming baths. Yeah, lives with a woman. Very nice lady. But the bat-eared, that's what I was after. The bat-eared among you will have heard a slightly maudlin register to my voice, because I'm feeling, and I always say this in a childish voice to avoid awkwardness, make people feel a bit more comfortable, I'm feeling a heck a bit lonely. Yeah, bit down in the dumps. And how come? Well, I was on my speed walk yesterday, just as I do every day. I alternate between jogging and speed walking because I have a bit of a floating cartilage around the hip, which causes agony if it gets inflamed. But yesterday, for some reason, be it the lycra bodysuit or my big red face, my walk seemed to tickle a couple of bystanders who gave me some verbals. They were 3 council workers who do the gardening in the local park. I say gardening, they pick up dog shit and cut the grass. Not exactly Monty Don. They seem to find my upright walking style, my rigid gait, amusing, and I get that. There's no way to speed walk that doesn't look like you're trying to get to a campsite toilet after eating some old ham. I think one of the chaps called me a mincer, and I just pretended I didn't hear it. What made me sad was it reminded me of what had happened previously. That time was the same 3 guys, but it was when my late canine companion Seldom was alive and happened to be with me. He wasn't much of a walker, but he'd sometimes lie on his big skateboard, and he'd let me tow him through the park. It was sort of a homemade skateboard, really, just a bogie, which is sort of a gurney with bicycle wheels. It looked like I was taking him to market, but he enjoyed it. It's fair to say Seldom took against those 3 menial workers with gusto. He didn't like to be mocked, even indirectly. I remember he absolutely went for them, either to defend my honour or because one of them had a sandwich he wanted. And sure enough, it was a great day, actually. The heckling horticulturalists ended up having to hide in the back of the pickup, and Seldom barked and snarled and hurled himself against the bodywork. One of the guys ended up wetting himself, which was just delicious. I mean the moment, rather than the urine. But yesterday, there was no beloved, dangerous dog to defend me, and that smarted. I realised just how much I miss him, and While my dog owning days are over, I thought to myself, well, what I wouldn't give to go back to a time when Selden was alive so he could terrify these council gardeners until they lose bladder control. Yeah, in fact, what I wouldn't give to go back a couple of years and put Selden on a low cholesterol diet so his heart wouldn't pack up. Easier said than done, of course. He loved his eggs, loved his beef. His whole diet was effed up. Selden was one of the few dogs I know who'd love to drink a big steel salad bowl full of Coca-Cola. I'd never seen a dog burp before that, but my God, he'd burp with such gusto his eyes could water. I'd just pat him and say, good boy. And it had to be Coca-Cola. I once gave him Fentimans Cola, and he just put his foot on my foot and shook his head as if to say, don't do that again, mate. And I was remarking on that feeling of regret and how much I missed that time as I chatted to a chap I've been seeing every Wednesday morning. It's nothing serious, it's just that now and then I'd find myself at traffic lights, not driving off when the lights had turned green, until someone bibbed me from behind. It was as if I was asleep with my eyes open. Does that make sense? As if the bibbing was music. Does that make sense? Almost as if the traffic lights were fairy lights. Does that make sense? And I got talking about it to a neighbour. He said, you should chat to someone. I said, well, that's what we're doing now. He said, yeah, but no, someone with skills and time. And so that's what I do. He's not a shrink or anything, he's just a sounding board, really. Officially a counsellor. I think the academic threshold is a lot lower, and it shows. But he's, like I say, a sounding board, a listening post who helps me to unjumble some of the knotty thoughts that can fester, and have been festering, in the old brain box. I say listening post, I'm never fully sure he's listening. To be fair, he's never fiddling with his phone, but I can't help wondering that he's thinking about something else. His nodding is a bit robotic, and he's cultivated a sort of generic noise that could mean anything. It's sort of a or a you know, but as I say, it could mean anything from I know what you mean, to that's a shame, to tell me more, to I must remember to go to Boots, to those eggs at breakfast were nice, I'm going to buy more of those eggs. This chap, let's call him Jeff because I don't like his real name, which is Jez. Jeff listened to me hankering after the past, and he said, no point looking back. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift, which is why we call it the present. I thought, wow, that's facile. For a man who has letters after his name and charges 90 quid an hour, and that's the level he's operating at. I can see what he's driving at, but I wouldn't even buy a tea towel with that on it. Jeff said there's no point wishing you could go back in time, and I said, with respect, Jeff, I've got a 20-minute podcast to fill every week. There's plenty of point. And, you know, when we don't learn from the past, we are destined to repeat the mistakes of the past. And this really gave the game away, because he couldn't think of a reply, he just went back to humming. And as I was thinking about how much he resembled an Easter Island statue, I noticed that he had a scar of a previous nasal piercing. And I just thought, I'd love to put a sleeper through that and a dog chain, hook it up to the bumper of my car and just pull his nose off. I don't think I'll see him anymore. So instead, I'm walking. For all the benefits you might get from seeing a therapist, you can get just as much from simply walking. It's a damn sight fucking cheaper. So today I'm wandering through the same fields where I used to walk Selden, and while I no longer own a dog, I'm still throwing a stick. Not sure why. It must be muscle memory. Indeed, this lane, in a way, is memory lane. a primitive form of time travel, if that were possible. So hold on, I miss you. So hold on, I miss you. Yeah, but yes, there are many great people who believe in the future possibility of time travel. Einstein, Hawking, Asimov, C. Clarke, J. Fox, brackets Michael, Who, brackets Doctor. And you might say, then why wouldn't the government tell us? But I suppose it'd be because the rules and regulations needed to govern the use of time travel would be a bureaucratic nightmare. I mean, when you think of all the red tape, the amount of forms you need to fill in before they'd even let you near a time machine, it just makes your head spin. You can't even travel forward in time to the point where you've finished filling them in, because that's the point of the forms. I suppose you could spend a morning filling them in, then as soon as you get the green light, travel back in time and just use the morning as you like. Oh no, that wouldn't work. You'd go back to before you'd filled them in, and then you'd have to fill them in again. It's a tricky one to follow.
Your feedback. Here at From the Oast House, we want to hear your view on what works and what doesn't. Please rank your favourite elements of the podcast from the following list: what I say, the way I say them, the speed at which I say things, music, ideas, the volume at which I say things, other, none of the above. Your feedback.
I'm sure you'd all have a time you'd like to travel back to if you had the chance. In fact, I tweeted the very question to my Twitter followers, the Allenites, the Partridge, just my Twitter followers. Maisie in Perth, she says she would travel back to the 8th of March 2015. She would drive to Symonston Hall in North Yorkshire and cook a hot meal for Jeremy Clarkson to eat at the end of his working day. That way Clarkson would remain calm, not punch his producer, and would still be presenting Top Gear to this day. Lovely. Great idea for a book, actually, a science fiction novel asking a sort of what if Top Gear was still presented by the Holy Trinity of Clarkson, Hammond and May. How different the world would be. What life would look like if they had not signed with Amazon Prime, because the ripple effect would be enormous. I mean, how would that impact the current presenters? McGuinness, what would he be doing? Perhaps more adverts for gambling firms. Flintoff, what would he be doing? That other guy, I mean, what would he be doing? It's worth exploring. Thanks for suggesting that, Maisie. Personally, I would travel back slightly further to the previous incarnation of Top Gear, before they got Richard Hammond involved and the invited studio audience. I'd sit down with Quentin Wilson and Tiffany Dell and say, guys, open your eyes. They want to turn this into a mainstream entertainment format, not a car magazine show. Quentin, go and see a stylist. Ask for some boot-cut jeans and a leather jacket. Look like you smoke. Tiff, poke fun at small cars bought by people not that interested in cars. Poke fun at people who drive sensibly. Skid cars sideways and go, whoa! Say things like, that's what I'm talking about, or now we're cooking. You know, show people that side of you. Be pub Tiff, not telly Tiff. But history will show you that they didn't heed my advice, or at least not successfully. Quentin bought a leather jacket, but it was belted at the waist, and it looked a bit like a woman's. Tiff just had a huff. What else have we got? Veronica in Manchester says, time travelling to the past is fraught with risk. You're playing with forces far beyond your comprehension. I implore you, please stop this madness. Yes, Veronica writes in quite often. She can take things a bit literally. I asked my followers, how would you rob a bank vault the other week? You know, would you tunnel in or bribe a guard? And she called the police. Who, to be fair, were lovely. You know, we had a cuppa and a nice long chat. PC Daniels was saying the best way to rob a bank is to come in armed with a hammer. Didn't say what kind, ball peen, cross peen, mallet or claw. He said people assume you're more likely to use it, but you'll get a lighter sentence than if you carried a firearm. Plus, you look deranged. You can negotiate with a criminal mastermind, but a nutter with a hammer, you're way past the bargaining stage. Very knowledgeable guy, some great tips. Paul Duggan says he would travel back to the 3rd of January 2020, which is when his wife discovered he was having an affair. He said he made a mistake which has had devastating consequences, and said he would do anything to do things differently. Ah, well, good for him. Yes, he said if he could go back to that time, he would store incriminating photos and videos in an encrypted folder that was password protected. He would also buy a second SIM card so that the messages and calls to his mistress would not show up on his bill. Andrew in Guildford says he'd travel back to the reign of Henry VIII, where he'd live as a courtier in Hampton Court Palace. Yeah, the thing is, Andrew, I'm not sure what properties you think time travel possesses that would catapult you into the top 1% of Tudor society. Your bio says you work in data support. I'm sure there were low-level admin roles in the 1500s. Why does everyone imagine in the olden days they'd be rubbing shoulders with royalty? See, I'm just going to sit down on this stile, actually. A bit puffed out. There we go. Andrew adds that he would try and talk some sense into the womanising monarch in order to protect the integrity of the church. I wouldn't call it womanising, Andrew. The guy had high standards, sure, but you can't always blame the man. Catherine of Aragon, his first wife, apparently, was always going on at him. And, you know, he's got Anne Boleyn twirling around in front of him, shaking a bottle, saying, you know, get a load of this, winking from under the hat shaped like a house. You know, it's pretty sexy stuff. I mean, what's he supposed to do? Anne of Cleves, I mean, that was just a debacle. I mean, the only reason his marriage to Anne of Cleves was so short was that she sent a portrait of herself before she came over from Germany that looked nothing like her. He took one look at her and said, that portrait looks nothing like you. I mean, you know, welcome to Tinder. He said, look, love, you know, it's not your fault, it's not my fault, but this ain't going to fly, you know, so bundled her off to Lewis. Very nice town, by all accounts. I've had several dates like that. In fact, one of them came over from Germany. That was a long weekend. Good thing I booked a twin room. We just spent 2 days watching TV in a B&B in Dover. Their English wasn't great, so yeah, we just lay on top of the bed watching Death in Paradise, which is the best lowbrow TV detective series available, which is what the doctor ordered, frankly. Then Monday morning came round and I said, oh, you know, I'll definitely be doing this again. And what I meant was I'll be booking myself into a B&B and watching Death in Paradise, so I technically wasn't lying. And she said, so what do you reckon? Should I go back to my husband? I said, yeah, I would. Excuse me, I think your dog just took my stick.
Oh, sorry, where is your dog?
I don't have one, I just have the stick. That's a lovely dog.
Oh, thank you, yeah, they're good company.
Come here, Lucy.
Hello. Do you want to let's have a cuddle? Let's have a cuddle. Come here.
Oh, come here.
You all right?
Oh, yeah. Hello.
I'll get them off you. Go.
No, they're all right. Yeah, no. It's just great playing with a couple of dogs. I had a massive mongrel. He had his heart gave way. Gave him too much fatty food. So I'm a bit. Hello. What?
He doesn't like it.
All right, okay. Do you like it? He'd have liked you. He would have eaten you.
So, what kind of dog was he?
I don't know. All I know is I think he was a throwback. I think he might have been a prehistoric dog. Pterodactyl, someone called him.
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh, shoot. Oh, fucking hell, his breath stinks. But a lovely fella. Right, I think that should be recording. Apologies for the slightly rough and ready start to the podcast. I hadn't planned to record today. I was due to cast my next podcast tomorrow afternoon, which would have charted a live haircut. Never done that before on a podcast. From conception and initial ideas to arrival at the salon and do I want a coffee, through to the execution of the haircut, including my thoughts on how she's getting on, culminating in a sit down with the stylist and her manager where we conduct an honest assessment of what went right and what, if anything, didn't. Usually her problem is over chatting. But a hairdressing podcast will have to wait for another day because something has just happened that has quickened my pulse and tightened my chest. And I thought, this is what you should be doing, Alan. It's real-time, seat of your pants, heart in your mouth moment, or heart in your pants, seat of your mouth moment, not sure what that means, which needs capturing and which will surely scoop me a nomination at the British Podcasting Awards, if there is such a thing. Mind you, the idea of sitting in a room filled almost exclusively with fellow podcasters seems pretty unbearable. Picture the kind of person who puts their hands up at a Q&A and says, hi, it's more of a comment than a question, really. Imagine that, but that's everyone in the room. Why is my heart beating like the clappers? Well, it's not because I've just guzzled a big coffee on an empty stomach. I don't do that anymore. After I briefly went berserk at a Channel 4 pitch meeting and delivered my entire pitch in the form of a rap. Yeah, I mean, I just lost the run of myself. Nor is it because I've been on a call to an IT help desk in Mumbai, rolls his eyes. No, it's because after years of looking for the person I want to spend the rest of my goddamn life with, I think I may have found, the right gal. I wouldn't say anything as cheesy as she completes me, but she certainly finishes me off. It's one of those times where you think, is this really happening? And from talking to other podcasters, they just say, Alan, figure it out on air. Work through your thoughts on the mic. Some people like spontaneity. Yeah, I mean, do both as D's. I mean, yeah. I feel like I'm flying. Does that make sense? As if I'm zip wiring across a valley in the Lake District going, ah! A lot of people scream when they do it. I mean, truth be told, I try to hold my breath and I tend to go, but yeah. And I'm on my way to tell her. I'm literally in my car in hot pursuit of a very special lady who I plan to, I can't believe I'm frickin' saying it, open my heart to. If that sounds like a scene from a Hollywood movie or a miniseries, then I make no apologies for that. Maybe you should lighten up a bit, especially if you're someone who curls their lip at romance. We need more romance. We need a bit more Paul McCartney and a bit less John Lennon. You have to tread slightly carefully. The rules have changed somewhat in the Me Too era as regards the romantic pursuit of a woman. Time was when a man on an advert could rappel up the side of a woman's residence, steal in through an open window, place a box of competitively priced chocolates on a bedside table, and then abseil or swallow dive his way into the night, all while she is in the ensuite having a shower or a poo. Today, a man tiptoeing through a woman's bedroom would be considered alarming rather than dashing. Have we lost something, I wonder? Likewise, deodorant adverts would feature men's heads being turned by the sweet aroma of an impulse antiperspirant beneath the smooth armpits of a delectable young woman. He'd run up behind her, wheel around and say, "What are you? I just bought you some flowers." You can't even do that anymore. Running after a woman now on a busy high street is pretty much, I'd say unacceptable across the board. The only stranger who can give a woman flowers now is an Amazon driver. He might not even fancy her. Crazy. It's a shame. In some ways, I feel sorry for young women too. Sweep them off their feet. You can't even tap them on the shoulder. Unless you say, do you mind if I tap you on the shoulder? Which defeats the whole point of tapping them on the shoulder. What romantic man has not dreamt of bursting into a church just as a couple are about to tie the knot, and she turns around and says, "Gavin, what are you doing here?" At which point everyone looks at you, you take a few small steps forward, catch sight of a statue of Jesus on the cross. Here goes. Wish me luck, old fella. A very fusty old woman with a big hat scowls and looks disapproving. She's old-fashioned, but the viewers and you and Sarah are not old-fashioned. A grumpy-looking vicar says, "Well, if you've quite finished with this interjection, we'd like to resume." It's now or never, you think. Say something, you think. Say anything. "Sarah," you'd say, not knowing where the sentence is going to go, I don't know why I'm here." People would grimace as if thinking this is a rubbish way to start a speech, but you get it back on track. "I don't know why I'm here," you repeat. "But I am. And I know people think we'd never work. Me, a corporate lawyer, you a humble kindergarten teacher, but Sarah, I love you. I may not be all the things you want. I can't play polo or take you skiing in cloisters or skipper a yacht," referring to a scene earlier where her fiancé had skippered a yacht. "But I can sit on a blanket in Hyde Park with a couple of beers and do an impression of your favourite Muppet. So what's it to be? Yachts or Muppets?" And she just looks away sadly and says, "It's time to play the music." The organist starts, and with a sigh and a nod, you start to walk away, knowing you've made a right fool of yourself. Outside, you'd think, "It's time to play the music." What does she mean? Wait! Wait! It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight. At that moment, your thoughts are interrupted by a voice that says, "Oi, Big Bird, you forgot your hat." Because I'd taken my hat off in church, because you have to in church. You spin round and realise, OMG, it's her. "We'd better be quick," she says. "They'll be wondering where I am." You look at your car. Damn, it has a flat tyre. "Don't worry," she says. "We can just take the van." You realise she means the ice cream van that they'd booked to give out free ice creams at the reception. "I just remembered," you say. "Remembered?" she'd say. "Remembered what?" "Why I love you." And she'd think, "Why not say the whole sentence in one go, you stupid cunt?" That kind of thing, pretty standard stuff. Yeah, society says you can't make big romantic gestures like that anymore. But I say, screw society. I have developed feelings for someone. I just watched her drive away and I thought, I have to go after her. I have to tell her how I feel. So I jumped in my teal Range Rover Sport to follow her granite black Range Rover Sport. What a sight. You could not make it up. If you put that in a script, no one would believe you. And yet we're both Range Rover drivers. Oh, shit. Traffic jam. Yeah, just trying to join the A11. This is frustrating. She can't be far ahead of me. In fact, I think that's her Range Rover up ahead. It sticks up above the traffic. I like that. Easy to spot in a car park. Let me in, let me in. Let me in. Can you let me in, please? Can you let me in, please? Idiot. Pretending he can't even see me. Even though I'm slap bang in his peripheral vision. Oh, you can see me all right. Look at him trying to act natural. You can see the cogs whirring. He's thinking, what does natural look like? What would I be doing if I wasn't pretending I couldn't see another car trying to merge into my lane? Thrumming the steering wheel with his fingers. Half pretending to whistle. Scratching the nose. You're overthinking it, mate. You're a pitiful actor and a selfish road user, and your car's far too small for you. Crammed into your Dacia Sandero. You look like Derek Depardieu in a shopping trolley. Absolutely laughable. Oh, he's letting me in. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So who is she? Who is the Juliet to my Romeo? The Judy to my Richard, the Camilla to my HRH POW. Well, it's a funny one. They do sometimes say you only find what you need when you stop looking. And they say that about love, but I find it only applies to glasses, wallets, car keys, iPhones and bloody remote controls. I've got to try stand-up, for crying out loud. That is really good stuff. Give it a go, good night. I'm loath to use Tinder. If you stay on it too long, you end up encountering the same old faces. Some people say there's plenty more fish in the sea, but certain fish stocks are dwindling, and you need to allow time for the fish population to replenish. So that's not strictly true. It just doesn't hold water, unlike the sea, which holds loads. And it's all to do with overfishing. And I guess within the sort of dating world, blonde divorcees with tans and good hair have been overfished. You have to wait, be patient, and when you see one, pounce. For a man my age, online dating can be a bit demeaning. I mean, my ex-wife Carol seems to think it's highly amusing I'm on Tinder. You wouldn't catch her on Tinder. She's too analog for that. She thinks she's going to find Mr. Right on a P&O cruise. Good luck with that. Unless your idea of Mr. Right is a geography teacher from Peterborough, but that's Carol for you. People say, what's your ex-wife like? Quickest way to describe her, she's like spent uranium rods. Never not toxic. I've looked everywhere for relationships. There's a young man I'm friends with, a chap in his 20s by the name of Nathan. He subbed on our pub quiz team one night, aced the music round about hopeless and current affairs, much like the late Simon Bates. But he is a very, very talented musician. He does jingles for radio ads. He's produced some real earworms. Anyone who listens to local radio in East Anglia will be familiar with his work. You can't turn on your radio without hearing, "Open up your horizons with caravans from Dryson's." I said to him, "Nathan, that could have been written by the Pet Shop Boys." He said, "Do you think so?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, definitely a B-side." We'll sometimes jam together. He'll play a few instruments and head up the singing, and I'll lob in a backing vocal or a lyric. He doesn't chat much, a man of few words. If I say, "Do you fancy writing a musical / concept album about Isambard King de Brunel?" he'll say, "Yeah, cool," and he'll just start beavering away at it. I said to him, "Nath, I'm looking for a woman to be my girlfriend. Would you mind if I asked your mother?" Or would that be weird? "Don't worry, because I wouldn't become some sort of dad figure to you unless you wanted me to, in which case, cool." And he just went very quiet and said, "I'd rather you didn't ask her." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely cool."